Hello birdwatchers. Today I'm on the other side of the globe in Shanghai, China. This massive city is best known for its ancient history, culture and amazing food. But what most visitors don't realise is that they have an amazing set of birds here too. There's not much in this urban environment, so I think it's time for us to go birdwatching. Let's go! Let's begin. Our Shanghai birding adventure starts at Century Park, an urban oasis just 10 minutes drive from downtown. With over 150 species recorded here, it's a perfect place to kick things off. Let's start off at the lake. I'll round up some birds for you. Here we go. Here's the beautiful Mandarin Duck. The male is known for his vibrant breeding plumage, which he keeps for most of the year. As summer gets close, he swaps this flashy look for a more subtle style that matches the female. In East Asia, these ducks are legendary symbols of lifelong love. But the reality is a bit less romantic. Once the eggs are laid, the male typically vanishes, leaving the female to raise the ducklings by herself. It turns out that the eternal love is more of a seasonal contract, with most birds finding a fresh partner every year. We'll see many familiar birds on this trip, and the little grebe is one of them. As an Australian birdwatcher, which you've likely guessed from my accent, I find these grebes fascinatingly similar to the grebes that we have back home, though the little grebe is about 10% smaller and noticeably rounder. While often dismissed as the default duck, the mallard is actually a master of social networking. They're frequently seen mingling with other species on the water. Mallards come to Shanghai each autumn to escape the bitter northern chill. They'll then return north to breed in the spring. Today's journey starts in the bustling centre of Shanghai. First we'll meet the city's most famous urban birds. Then we go remote. Each chapter will be exploring the far edges of the region to find rare bird specialties that most visitors will never see. Here's our first magpie, the azure-winged. You'll see these beautiful birds in open woods, parks and orchards, often foraging in noisy social groups. These birds aren't just beautiful, they're smart too. They hide acorns and seeds in the ground, so they always have food available when the times get tough. Although this species sounds almost identical to its close relative, the common myna, the crested myna stands out with its little tuft of feathers above its beak. It's also a native bird here and blends into the urban and agricultural areas without causing too much trouble for the other bird life. Here's the spotted dove, known for its gentle rhythmic cooing. Ooh, 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 ooh. Pay attention to the spotted collar. Birdwatchers in China use the collar to tell this species apart from another similar dove that we'll see later. Century Park packs in lakes, woodlands, lawns, reed beds, and it even has a protected bird island. Beginners can spot a wide range of birds without going too far. Hear that? Those are starlings, and Shanghai has 3 regular species. First of the trio is the black-collared starling. These year-round locals are much chunkier than the other starlings. You'll usually spot them in groups of 5, strutting around, searching grasslands and parks for food. They can be pretty noisy too. White-cheeked starlings are migratory and show up mostly in the warmer months. The males are darker, while the females are more brown. Like most starlings, they're great mimics and can copy other birds, barking dogs, and even human whistles and voices. Here's another seasonal visitor, the red-billed starling. Red-billed starlings often travel in big swirling flocks, and sometimes these flocks even chase away predators. Across many parks in China, you'll often see people dancing, stretching, or doing Tai Chi. This is because most city residents don't have backyards. A lot of the participants are often older folks as well. Staying active is a big part of the culture here. And just across the field, some other locals are keeping busy. It's the Oriental magpie. The magpies here are not closely related to the ones in Australia. These birds are part of the crow and jay family. If you watch them, you might notice their corvid smarts. They're cheeky, will check out everything, and even pick fights with other birds twice their size. This call's a good one to memorize because you'll hear it across much of China. I'm not sure what's going on here. This large-billed crow must be a pet or a rehab bird. Either way, it's uncommon to see these classic-style crows in Shanghai. This is because the more agile magpies have taken over. And for anyone wondering, crows do not make good pets. They're so smart that they get bored fast, and when they get bored, they start taking things apart. Spring in Shanghai is a real treat for the senses. The city's famous magnolias are in full bloom. I'm here in early spring. It's one of the best times to be out birding. It's when the winter visitors are still around and the spring migrants are starting to arrive. Unfortunately, there's no single perfect time to see every bird here. Each season brings its own mix of species. This Chinese blackbird has caught a worm. Insects are their favourite, but they also eat berries, seeds and fallen fruit. You'll usually hear their mellow, flowing song echoing through the city before you see them. In 1958, China launched a massive cull of the Eurasian tree sparrow to protect their grain reserves. However, the campaign overlooked one key detail. Sparrows also consume those crop-eating insects. When the birds were almost eradicated, the number of crop pests surged, worsening losses and adding to the crop failures that accompanied the Great Chinese Famine. Recognising the error, the government eventually ended the cull and shifted towards protecting the birds to restore the natural pest control cycle. People often wonder about these tame, pure white doves. They're actually domesticated rock doves or common pigeons bred over generations for their snowy white feathers. Park staff often keep or release them as resident flocks, which is why these birds are so calm and gentle around people. Here's the grey-backed thrush. It's a close relative to the common blackbird found across most of the world. Okay, that was our quick loop around Century Park. I recommend setting aside at least half a day to really explore all of its corners. We've now seen many of the main urban birds. Now it's time to explore our next site further afield. We're going to track down some of the region's more fascinating and elusive species. Let's go! Welcome to Diànshān Lake Wetland. It's only about an hour from downtown Shanghai. But as soon as you arrive, it feels like you're in a completely different world. And check this out. The birdwatching sites here come with serious facilities. This expansive building is just the information centre. The reserve is so big that they even need to run shuttles between different sections. And that's exactly what we're doing now. We're taking this shuttle down to a lake that the team here recommended. They reckon the birds are out in full force today. Okay, let's see if the local intel was right. I'm looking for something unique to show you, and these reeds are a perfect prime spot. Here's the Dorian redstart. This one's a male. They're always flicking their tails, almost like they've had too much coffee. You'll often see them along riversides catching insects. And here's the female. The name Dorian comes from the region around eastern Mongolia, northeast China, and southern Siberia. Do you hear that? It's the call of the vinous-throated parrotbill. This one's carrying nest material. Look how tiny its bill is. The bill is perfect for crushing seeds and extracting larvae from stalks. These birds are very acrobatic and are usually found in noisy, fast-moving flocks. Meet the long-tailed shrike, one of the butcher birds of the Northern Hemisphere. They don't have strong talons like raptors, so they use a different approach to getting their meals. They'll grab their prey, like lizards and large insects, then they'll impale them onto thorns or barbed wire to hold them in place while they eat. Sometimes they even leave the prey on display as a bold status symbol. Let's check out the multi-story bird hide. Getting to Shanghai birding spots is easier and cheaper than you might expect. Rideshare apps like Didi and Meituan can take you almost anywhere. And even trips that are an hour long usually cost under 20 Australian dollars, or 15 USD. If you don't speak much Mandarin, bring in translation app. The pickup process can feel a bit intense the first time. Alright, we've made it to the top. Let's see what's around. At first glance, you might think that this is a Pacific black duck with the splash of yellow paint on its bill. It's actually an eastern spot-billed duck. This species happily forages in city parks, ponds, rice paddies, and wetlands. Wait, what? An Australian native in China? How did this happen? Black swans here are almost always introduced birds. It makes you wonder, are these just pampered park residents? Or are we seeing the start of a truly wild population? Alright, the open water's a bit of a ghost town today, but we're still up high and this view is exactly what we need. The light-vented booble is a bird that you start noticing everywhere. They eat fruit, buds, and sometimes insects, and their lively social energy makes them hard to miss. Here's the most abundant swallow in the world, the barn swallow. It gets its name from creating nests in barns and other human-made structures. This isn't a bird, it's a nutria, also known as a koipu. These South American natives were originally brought to China for fur farming, but after various escapes, they can now be found inhabiting many of the region's wetlands. Let's switch things up a bit and look for some forest species. High in the branches, can you see those huge stick nests? Oriental magpies build nests like that. Down on the ground, there's a splash of yellow from this canola patch, and it looks like we have company. Take a look at this unusual bird. The common hoopoe. You can't mistake it for anything else. They use their curved bills to hunt for food in the grass and mud, but they're even more famous for their nest defense. Mothers and chicks can give off a nasty scent that's said to keep predators away. It's definitely not a bird you'd want to pick up. Remember those big magpie nests I mentioned earlier? This is their mini-me, the oriental magpie robin. They're much smaller than the magpie, but the males have the same bold black and white patterns. The females, like this one, are soft charcoal grey. They're famous for singing from high perches all over the city. Down at the base of the tree, we've got some more birds. The olive-backed pipit. You'll often see them creep in through the leaf litter in a low horizontal posture, which is very different from the upright stance of its open country cousins. Oh, and here's its friend. Hear that? Oh! That's the common pheasant, also known as the ring-necked pheasant. We're lucky to see these birds today. Yellow-beaked grosbeaks are only here in the colder months. I have a trick for you to identify this next one. It's easy to confuse it with the spotted dove. But if you look at the zebra pattern on its neck, those smudged stripes mean it's an oriental turtle dove. The name turtle dove is said to come from the European turtle dove's call, "Tur, tur," which eventually became turtle. Speaking of oriental species, take a look at this one, the oriental greenfinch. You'll find them all over East Asia, from China and Korea to Japan. Even though they're small, they're surprisingly bold and will chase off bigger birds if they get too close to a good feeding spot. These trees look like they shouldn't survive with their roots in such wet ground, but these plants are made for it. Their flared bases keep them stable in the soft mud. Off in the distance, I've spotted some tits. A perfectly normal thing for a birdwatcher to say here. This is the Asian tit. It's part of a big family of 50 to 80 tit species, all known for their bright colours, bold face markings, and sometimes a stylish crest. Next is the silver-throated tit. They're incredibly fast. In the warmer months, tits eat insects, spiders, and caterpillars to fatten up. When it gets cooler, they switch to seeds, nuts, and berries. This one is the yellow-bellied tit. We saw the magnolias were in full bloom back at Century Park. Around the same time, the peach and cherry blossoms are also going into flower, turning most of the parks into pink clouds. These flowers don't last long, usually 2 weeks, so timing matters. The best part is that, with so many parks, you can enjoy the displays here without the huge crowds that you'd find in Japan. We've got 2 more interesting wetland species to see here. Let's head down to the water and check them out. The black-capped night heron is a true global species, found across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. You'll see plenty of them here. At night, they hunt for fish, frogs, and crustaceans. And while sometimes they hunt during the day, most of the time they just lounge around like sleepy statues. Don't let this one's appearance fool you. This is a young black-capped night heron. It's hard to look away from that sapphire shine. The common kingfisher is a patient hunter that will sit for ages. Once a fish is spotted, the kingfisher will zip across the water, dive in under the surface to snatch its meal in a matter of seconds. Although this location is not too far from the city, it's tucked far off the main road. Getting a rideshare or taxi back is tricky. To save yourself a long walk, ask the information centre if they can drop you at the main entrance. From there you can easily catch a bus or easily get a taxi back to the city. I mentioned earlier that birdwatching spots here have great facilities. There are even restaurants. Here you can watch the birds while enjoying your morning tea. For now, it's time to hit the road and check out the next spot. Chasing shorebirds is becoming a bit of a recurring theme for me. They eluded me on Bribie Island back home. However, there is a reason why the shorebirds are so scarce here. The reality is that land reclamation has cost these birds a significant amount of habitat, leading to some steep population declines. It's a massive topic I'd like to dive into in a future video, but for now, it just means that the search for shorebirds here was a lot tougher than I expected. However, I did find 2 reliable sites, so let's go. We've jumped across the city to the far northern reaches of Shanghai. This is Dōngtān Wetland, roughly a 90-minute drive from the city centre. It's a sanctuary specifically designed for birding in mind. There's something I didn't realise before making the trip out here. The area is actually split into 2. There's the public section, which is great and has about 70 species reported so far this year. Then there's the neighbouring protected reserve, which has almost double that, and especially shorebirds. The catch is that you need a special permit or a spot on one of their official tours to get into that protected reserve. And there aren't any tours today. You will notice the tufted duck straight away by that crest that's flicking at the back of its head. While the males are crisp black and white, the females are chocolate brown. and both sexes share piercing golden yellow eyes. Here's a familiar bird, the great crested grebe. The chicks possess a remarkable survival trait shared with their close cousin, the western grebe. Usually a pale pink, this patch flushes a vivid bright red when the chick is hungry or stressed. This visual signal supposedly tells the parents exactly which mouths to feed first. Many viewers will also be familiar with this one, the Eurasian coot. They are usually pretty chill, and are intensely devoted parents, though they are known to practice brood reduction to ensure that the strongest chicks survive when food is scarce. Unlike a lot of the coast around Shanghai, Dōngtān is more of a good news story. Restoration projects in this area have focused on rebuilding habitat by clearing invasive weeds, improving water flows, and monitoring birds over time. The results are starting to show, with more birds appearing in the reserve again. What? Okay, riding with one hand is not a good idea. I did manage to pull over in the right section though. Take a look at this pair of northern shovelers. The male is on the right and the female is on the left. Their bills are wide and flat, with fine filters that help them sift seeds and tiny crustaceans from the water. They have a funny way of feeding. They often spin in circles to stir up mud, and they use those big bills to scoop up the food. A bit further out, we've got a pair of falcated ducks. Keep an eye on the male's head. That deep green iridescence is stunning when the light hits it. Then there's the green-winged teal. The male looks like he's wearing a sleek emerald green racing helmet. But the female, like most ducks, is a master of disguise. Her mottled brown cryptic plumage is vital camouflage, keeping her and the nest hidden deep within the reeds away from predators. Wait, there's something else moving across the bank. It's a Chinese alligator. This is one of the smallest crocodilians in the world, but also the most threatened. It's estimated that fewer than 300 remain in the wild, making them critically endangered. Because of their size, they don't see humans as food. Still, I'm not taking any chances. Dōngtān Wetlands has plenty to see and do. If you're planning on visiting, be sure to check the details of any tours of the nearby reserves before you make your way here. That's another location ticked off, but there was still no luck with the shorebirds. I've got a good feeling about the next spot though. Let's get moving. Welcome to Fèngxīn Town, on Shanghai's south side. It's not exactly the first place you'd expect to chase shorebirds, but a few sightings have popped up, so I'm keen to poke around and see what's hanging around. Where's the mudflat? I can't even see the beach from here. Maybe there's something a bit further down. Okay, this is looking better. It's supposed to be close to high tide. Hopefully the birds will come a bit closer before the sun sets. Finally found some. With its pale, sandy underparts and broken black neckband, the Kentish plover is a master of blending into coastal flats. It looks similar to many other species of plover, but you can pick this one out by its thinner black bill and those distinctive dark legs. Here's a little egret. They pop up all over the world, and depending where you are, they come in slightly different regional forms, known as subspecies. Think of subspecies like local variations of the same bird. Same species, just small tweaks in colour or size. In this region, the little egret has orange feet. Further over, we have the dunlin. They look remarkably like curlew sandpipers that also hang out here. But once they take flight, if you look very closely at the rump, in dunlins it's grey, and then in curlew sandpipers it's white. It's not very obvious. English-speaking birdwatching guides in China are rare and in high demand, often asking around 600 USD per day. That sounds steep, however, it typically covers a private car, a dedicated driver, and a specialist who knows the local calls and hidden hotspots for those trickier species. If you're birding around the city, you won't need one, but once you head a bit further out, having a guide will save you a lot of time, hassle, and stress. Next up is the common greenshank. You'll usually see them patrolling the shallow waters, and they're easy to pick out by their slightly upturned bill. And the name is literal, so greenshank means greenish legs or shanks. The grey heron is one of the most recognisable herons in Shanghai. They're tough birds and not fussy about where they live. You'll spot them everywhere, from busy city ponds to tidal flats. Gull identification in Asia is challenging. Shanghai alone hosts several species of gull, which often stand shoulder to shoulder and look frustratingly similar. What sets the Mongolian gull apart is its clean white head in the breeding season and pale grey underparts, which to me sounds like every other gull. But let's keep going. Here's a common sandpiper, doing the sandpiper shuffle. This teetering behaviour is a bit of a scientific mystery. The leading theory is that by shifting its perspective, it can better pinpoint tiny prey against the shifting shoreline. Notice these cement barricades? They're common along most of Shanghai's coastline. They protect the town, which is built on soft reclaimed land. They do this by breaking up wave energy and shielding the seawall from storms and typhoons. With this light, we're pretty much out of time. Let's try to squeeze in a bit more. It's the little ringed plover, easily distinguished by that bright yellow eye ring. At first, I didn't almost recognise this species. When great cormorants flip into breeding mode here, they develop a white head and back and a sharp black mohawk. Elsewhere, they'll remain all black and they'll just develop a white thigh patch. And this one's still in non-breeding plumage. Here's a godwit, but which one? I recommend using a field guide for this one. Both bar-tailed and black-tailed occur here. Okay, don't put that guide away yet. Shanghai also gets the Eurasian and Eastern curlews. That's it for the shorebirds. The daylight's gone. We're heading to a different habitat for the next one. I found a forest absolutely packed with incredible species for the finale. See you tomorrow for the big finish. Good morning. We're now at Hǎiwān National Forest Park. This place covers more than 1,000 hectares, and there's over 100 bird species that are regularly reported in their woods, lakes, and wetlands. I've had enough walking for this trip, so it's time to jump in one of the higher buggies. And we're off. The birdsong here is really different from the other places we've visited so far. Stop! We've got some birds in this tree. Up here, a chestnut booble is building a nest. These birds live in forests, so you usually spot them in big wooded parks along forest edges. You won't find them in the city like the common light-vented booble. Next is the Norman's thrush. You usually see them on the ground, but this one's climbed into the tree for some berries. They're a classic winter sight in the city, but we're on the cusp of that season, so soon they'll head back to Siberia to breed. Up here, ready to launch, is the crested goshawk. Its crest is usually tucked away rather than flared back like a cockatoo's. Though it naturally favours dense forests, it's now often seen in urban parks. Are you thinking about a birding trip to China? Keep in mind that eBird is not the main birdwatching platform here. For the latest sightings, use birdreport.cn. Unfortunately, it's only in Chinese, so keep a translator app handy. It's the best way to find local hotspots before you head out. Here's a group of scaly-breasted mooniers. People often call them the nutmeg mannequin, because their chest feathers look like the inside of a nutmeg seed. Oh, check this out. It's the white wagtail. I still remember how excited I was the first time I saw one here. Back home in Australia, this species would be a mega rare vagrant, but over here they're super common. If you're thinking this looks like a dusky moorhen or a common gallinule, then you're pretty close. They look almost identical. The good news is that only the Eurasian moorhen is found here, so identifying them simple. When you're searching these huge parks for birds, the trick is to avoid the crowds. Go to the quieter side trails and shaded paths. The birds usually hide in peaceful, less travelled spots. Here's our first bunting. These birds have strong short bills that help them crack through tough greens. Female buntings have streaky brown feathers and can look almost like sparrows. If you haven't guessed it, this is a black-faced bunting. The Pallas's leaf warbler is a tiny, hyperactive, green and yellow rocket that... and it's gone. The next bunting is Tristram's bunting. Unlike its field-loving cousins, this forest specialist is a master at darting through dense undergrowth to forage for insects and seeds. While birdwatching here is world-class, travelling through China does come with a few interesting surprises that you might not expect. I could honestly do a whole separate video on the logistics and oddities of a trip like this, but let's continue on to the final bird in stretch. Female red-flanked bluetails can easily be mistaken for Dorian redstarts. The male bluetail, though a bit hard to see here, has shiny blue feathers from his head down to his back. The pale thrush is a shy, brownish winter visitor that creeps through leaf litter in search of insects and berries. It heads back north once the weather warms up. Introducing the Eurasian siskin, a close relative to the goldfinch. People have celebrated this bird for centuries in stamps, songs, and even bronze statues in St. Petersburg. That's almost it for our Shanghai birding tour. From urban oases to remote island wetlands, we've covered a massive amount of ground and encountered some truly incredible species. Before we meet our final bird for the trip, please hit that like button and subscribe to join us for more adventures from around the world. If you're planning a trip to Shanghai or China in general, feel free to ask any questions in the comments. Alright, we've reached our last bird. My favourite bird for the trip, the red-billed blue magpie. In parts of China and the Himalayas, magpies, including this one, are seen as symbols of good luck and happy news. So spotting one is often considered a good omen. That's it for today. Happy bird watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!